You're listening to the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson, and I welcome you here again today, Dad, especially if you want to add more tools to your fathering tool belt. Well, you know the grid by now. It's simply on your mark, get set, go. So, Dad, I want you to picture yourself standing side by side with other dads getting ready to run your fathering race this week. I'm on the sidelines as your coach, cheering you on and saying, on your mark, get set, go. On your mark is the topic or the theme. Get set. We're going to fill that in with stories and stats, and go is always your practical action steps so that you can put your love for your daughters and your sons into action this week. Today, I have a guest coach joining me who I've been so excited for months to have here, and her name is Robyn Gobbel. I met her earlier this year at a conference where she was the keynote speaker. I did an all-day workshop with her and was absolutely blown away because I know that what she teaches in the trenches to parents, to clinicians, to leaders across the country, and on her podcast, I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, is practical, action-oriented. And I know that you dads will be taking notes during this podcast and during our conversation. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about her. She's been a neuroscience and parenting expert with a 20-year history as a play therapist who has specialized in complex trauma, attachment, and adoption. And like I said, now she travels and she's not doing clinical work in an office, but she's now bringing her resources to people like you who are listening, who are saying, I don't know always where to go to ask for directions. And so Robyn and I are coming to you today so that you can be the best dad and hero that I know you want to be. Robyn's best-selling book is one that you will definitely want to purchase today. It's titled Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors. Subtitle, Brain-Body Sensory Strategies That Really Work. Now, I'm not just telling you that I love this book. I mean, it is one you will underline, you will tag it, you will flip the pages, you will share it with your friends, you will read it with your partner, you will read it to your kids. I promise you this book is in a language that you will understand and that will make a difference in your relationships. Here's the really cool thing. It is a bestseller now and has sold over 30,000 copies in 1 year. Oh my goodness. Robyn also hosts the incredible podcast called The Baffling Behaviors Show. And I'm telling you, dads, week after week, without fail, I am recommending Robyn's books, her free resources on her website, her podcast to moms and dads. And so I'm repeating on the front end here. Just put your seatbelt on because we are going to be flying through some content so that you leave this conversation with strategies that will work and make a difference. Robyn, I am so excited that you are here today. Welcome, Robyn Gobbel.
Thank you for inviting me and welcoming me and your enthusiasm. I'm like, Michelle, could you just walk around with me all day?
Oh my goodness. Well, I like, you can hear my enthusiasm because I've been counting down the days for this conversation and you know it. Like we were even talking before this interview about how I feel like you're a co-therapist with me in my office. And you said you've heard that from other clinicians because you have written things down and you say them in a way that really do make a difference, don't they, in relationships?
Well, that is what people say. And I'm just it really is a privilege beyond hard. It's hard to even comprehend, right? This way I get to support not just families, but again, those of you out on the front lines doing this hard work with families. So it's just a privilege.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, on your mark, I've titled it, right? Take on kind of a play on words, taking your title and adapting it is Raising Daughters with Big Baffling Behaviors. So for Get Set, I just wanted to kind of set the stage by saying what you have written on your homepage that many dads no doubt will relate to, where you ask the question, are you ever baffled by your child's behavior? Playing like behavior whack-a-mole. And dads, Robyn's answer is one that will probably surprise you because she's saying, We've got to focus on the nervous system to change behavior, even the most baffling, confusing, and overwhelming behavior. So today, Robyn, you're going to be unpacking what that means, because in our field, clinically, we use the term nervous system all the time.
Yes.
But for those that are really in relationships and maybe don't understand these concepts, we're going to break this down and make it make a lot of sense, aren't we? To dads who really want to connect with their daughters and don't always know how to, and they kind of need a bit more of a roadmap. So, okay, I want you to set the stage, Robyn. First of all, by explaining the 3 brain pathways that you have made adaptable and understandable that will help dads understand their daughter's brain.
Well, you have to remember, I was a play therapist for a long time. And so I worked with little kids, and we worked with metaphor and play and animals. And it's always been very clear to me that we need our people, whether they're children or adults, to develop an understanding, to kind of like crack the code of the mystery of why we do what we do, right? Like, it's not the only thing we need to do, but it's a super important thing we need to do. And so in my work with kids, we were looking at how behaviors, so often we think about behaviors as like what the impact is of the behavior, or the behavior that we can see with our eyeballs. And we forget that the behavior started before we could see it, right? Like, there's a neurobiological process that happens that initiates a behavior, and it happens before we see the behavior. The behavior has impact, and that behavior starts in the nervous system. And there are 3 different potential places a behavior can start from. One is what I call the owl pathway. It's a part of the nervous system that's feeling safe and connected and regulated, not necessarily calm, but these are behaviors that, generally speaking, are inviting connection. And then we have a watchdog pathway and a possum pathway. And the watchdog and the possum pathway are designed to shift the energy in the nervous system so that the individual can be safe when things are not safe. So the watchdog is an energetic pathway in the autonomic nervous system that comes alive when the nervous system is like, uh-oh, I think something's not quite right here. I need some energy in order to figure out a way to be safe again. And then the possum pathway kind of does the opposite. It's like, ooh, things are not just not right here, but it's like real bad. And my best choice actually is not to use energy and like run or fight, but my best choice would be to conserve all that energy and collapse and get as small as possible. So those are the 3 energy pathways.
The 3 energy pathways. Okay, so now talk about, Robyn, are they supposed to get along? They're such different species. Are they ever enemies? How do you introduce them to each other, and how can they all play well together?
I love this question, because we have been kind of conditioned as humans to feel like the parts of us that are kind of causing us some trouble, like the behaviors that we're like, I wish I could change that. We're kind of conditioned to like look at those parts of ourselves as bad, and then we want to try to get rid of them. But actually, we do want the owl and the watchdog and the possum to find ways to collaborate, to cooperate, and even work together. And that can be working together, like the owl and the watchdog can work together when things are safe and connected, and they can have a lot of playfulness energy. Or the owl and the watchdog can work together in a way that's like the owl is aware, like, whoa, like owl brain isn't what we need here right now. We need fast, reflective energy in order to stay safe. So I, the owl brain, I'm out of the way. You, watchdog brain, take over. So that's another way they work together, right?
Yep.
What happens, of course, is sometimes the watchdog or the possum get a little overzealous with their jobs. That's the problem. And the problem isn't that we want the watchdog to go away or the possum to go away. It's that we want them to rest and then just work when they need to.
So I would imagine that some dads listening are saying, okay, I've never heard of this kind of conversation where you're
Yes.
talking about what's happening in the brain,
Yeah.
right? And the spinal cord and blood's
Right.
pumping through the body. And there's a big reaction because we're talking about big baffling behaviors.
Yes.
But I want to kind of pivot here and say, Dad, sometimes that's you. A
Totally.
lot of times it's you. And so because Robyn is going to be talking next about regulation, co-regulation, I'm stating the obvious when I say you pick up on your daughter's energy and your daughter picks up on your energy. And sometimes we can say it's two watchdogs growling at each other, biting at each other.
For sure.
What does a dad do when he can tell his watchdog is going, I want to attack and I want to bite the head off the owl and I want to kick the possum in the butt and say,
Yes.
get moving, stop fading and going limp and, backing off and hiding.
100%. So just like I just said, the watchdog and the possum, whether it's our kids or ours, they're not bad. We're not trying to get rid of them. I think about it as like, we want them to only work as hard as they have to. Because when we're overworked, we make more mistakes. Right? So as I'm a parent as well, right? And our kids' behavior is challenging. Sometimes we're mad. And I, have to just give myself a lot of grace and compassion. Like, I'm just human too. And sometimes I just kind of blow it and freak out, and that's just life. And I can develop the skills to kind of slow down that watchdog reaction, let the owl brain hang out just a little bit longer. Now, again, the owl brain isn't like calm and squishy and like ooey gooey or anything like that. The owl brain is able to say like, oh, hey, being mad actually makes sense here. It's okay to be mad. Let's just be mad in like a thoughtful, mindful way. Because when we get dysregulated mad, we start sometimes we start with insults or put downs. We get distracted. We stop focusing on what the real problem is, right? Let's use some watchdog energy if needed to be mad, to set a boundary, to make it clear, like, whoa, this thing that's happening is not cool. But let's do it in a way that doesn't ultimately hurt the relationship or increase like the fear in our daughter's watchdog brain. So paying attention to our own body response. What's happening in my body? I have parents tell me they can start to vision, their own owl brain flying away and their watchdog brain just, taking charge, and learning to have so much compassion for that. Like, well, of course that's happening. That makes a lot of sense. But also, does my watchdog need to be this overactive right now? Is this really helping to solve what the real problem is with whatever is happening between me and my kid right now?
That reminds me, Robyn, of sometimes a practical action step I've said to dads is take a time out as many minutes as your age.
Yeah.
So just like you give your 5-year-old a 5-minute timeout, your 3-year-old a 3-minute timeout.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're 50, you need a 50-minute timeout for the midbrain on fire part of your brain. Calm down because it's flooding this front lobe where you can't think and reason and make good decisions. Well, when that happens for you, Dad, or it happens with your daughter and both of you are watchdogging each other, sometimes that practical action step of a timeout is the best first place to start. So
for sure,
let me have you also then define, because we've kind of been using this concept in our conversation today, regulation. Notice yourself. Notice what's happening in you. Can you explain what regulation, co-regulation, and those concepts mean?
Broadly speaking, the word regulation or regulated really just means being in balance. It's a word we can apply to a lot of different things. In the context we're talking about today with regards to like parenting and behavior, the word regulation is about keeping balance in our autonomic nervous system, which is just fancy words for like the energy in our body. And so regulation is about can I stay mindfully in charge of the energy in my body? It's okay for it to go up, and then I can bring it back down. And when we're regulated, we have what I would say some owl brain available, which means we have some self-reflective capacity. It means we have the ability to pause, right? Like a regulated mad would have a moment of like, oh, I'm about to be super mad. And then I'm probably going to say something I regret. So I'm going to go ahead and take a timeout, right? It's not the mad that's the problem. It's just like when it shifts over into dysregulated, then we lose like our mindful connection to ourself, and our body gets really flooded with cues of danger. Now, dysregulation is not inherently bad, right? Regulation is about balance. And to balance something out, we have to have both, right? Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And if our daughter is dysregulated, which she is if she's having really bad behavior,
Yes.
what actually she needs for long-term change, maybe not change in the moment, but for like bigger overarching longer term change, is to have somebody respond to her with what we would call co-regulation. And co-regulation is about, can I bring my regulated nervous system and kind of like energetically offer it to someone else and see if they can kind of use or borrow my energy in order to come into regulation themselves. I mean, we can see this really clearly when we think about soothing a screaming baby, right? When we want to soothe a screaming baby, it works best if we also aren't screaming, right?
You're right.
So that doesn't mean we're calm, because it's hard to take care of a crying, intense baby. And we're feeling that intensity in our bodies. But it works best if we can feel that intensity in our bodies and also, right, have some soothing that we're offering. And then that dysregulated baby kind of energetically catches the soothing energy and starts to regulate and calm themselves.
And that's also, Dad, where you strengthen your bond with your daughter, because when she's melting down and you're that calm energy, mindfully aware of what's happening to you. And I love how you said, Robyn, it's like she can borrow from you. So you're giving her what she doesn't have without a demand that she just work on having a smile on her face or work on a better attitude. It's guiding her how to get there. But here's what you say, Robyn, and this is a powerful quote. You say, you're not as concerned about behavior change. You're concerned about nervous system change, because when there's an internal shift, behavior changes.
Absolutely.
Powerful, powerful. Well, I want to ask you one more question before we go to break. And that's that if a dad has a daughter that is consistently, well, you go with the new word he's learned today, dysregulated. Doesn't that just sound psychobabbly and really like smart and informed? So you could say, my daughter is very dysregulated right now. Can you tell him, how can he balance his own, watchdog, possum? What would be a place to start? Because you said notice your body, and then what?
I actually do have like a very clear 4-step process for that, with the understanding it never actually executes this way in real life, right? But really, truly, noticing is crucial. We cannot do anything if we don't notice. And working to notice strengthens our owl brain. So we notice, but then the most important step that people skip over is that we have to kind of pause and acknowledge and be with that noticing for just a second. Normally, when we notice something, like I'm starting to get really mad, we want to do something about that right away. So we either want to like kind of lash out and get somebody to change their behavior so that we can stop being mad. Or actually, I see a lot of parents kind of shame themselves for it. Like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be getting so mad. I should be able to have more compassion and more understanding. So what I tell parents is like, no, you're skipping the most important step. After you notice, holy smokes, I'm really having a big watchdog brain reaction now. You just like hang with it for a second. Just let it be true without trying to fix or be different. Then have a moment where you notice, this sucks. This is really hard. Yeah. And for some of the families I work with, that sounds like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not what parenting was supposed to look like. There's a lot of grief in these really out of control behaviors and how it's disrupting the family, right? And so have a moment of like compassion, not pity, but just compassion. Like, this is so hard.
Yeah.
And then I usually tell people, just do something that kind of helps you stay connected to your body. Maybe take a breath, notice your feet on the floor, notice what it smells like in the air, just something that kind of helps you get reconnected to the here and now. And then think about, what do I need to do to address this behavior?
It's so good, because you're just saying, slow down, notice, have compassion.
Yeah.
And back to what we were just saying, your daughter will follow your lead. Dad, she'll pick up on that. It's all nonverbal, but she'll feel that. She'll pick up on that. And that's a powerful way you can lead your daughter. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Robyn Gobbel.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back. Well, today we're talking with neuroscience and parenting expert and my friend Robyn Gobbel about how you as dads can help raise daughters with big, baffling behaviors. Okay, another thing that I love that you provide for parents, and I want to put this little plug in here, is you have emails that go out. You're on social media. You put infographics, free materials out there. So today, you can go to robyngobbel.com. I was going to ask you that at the end, but I'm putting the plug here. ROBYNGOBBEL.com, where you can get a review of the things she's saying today. She has infographics. She has her podcast. And you can put some of these things into action today, even by getting on her email list where things come right into your inbox in short snippets. And then some of these concepts, you'll get more and more coaching from Robyn to you. So one of the things, Robyn, that you've even talked about in your podcast recently is you titled it, All Behavior Makes Sense. Now, I imagine some dads are like, you are not in my home. My daughter makes absolutely no sense. Woman, you don't know what you're talking about. But the reason I even highlighted woman is that I've had dads say, I'm a guy, I'm a dude. I don't really speak Venusian. She's from another planet of Venus. I don't think her behavior makes sense to me. What would you say to that dad? How does he literally decode his daughter when she's melting down so that he has some data points to be able to better connect with her with his owl brain in the lead?
I actually think it matters tremendously to just hold the belief this behavior makes sense, even if I have no idea how that could possibly be true. And I personally am quite baffled by it. I just believe that in some way, shape, or form, this behavior makes sense. And we could do the science, but that would take a really long time. So your listeners are going to maybe just have to trust me for now, which is if we think about the moment a behavior starts, a behavioral impulse starts in the brain with like some neuron firings. The behavior starts way before we see it and way before it has an impact, right? And if we think about that moment, the moment a behavior starts in the brain, and we think about what has to happen in the body and in the brain and the nervous system to initiate a behavioral impulse, the behavior that gets initiated makes perfect sense. It totally matches whatever is happening in the brain and the body and the nervous system and that person's experience of safety and regulation and connection in that moment. That doesn't mean that the impact of the behavior is helpful, makes sense, useful. Some of the kids I work with have tremendously challenging behavior. I mean, their behavior is hurting people. It's hurting themselves. It's more than just confusing. It's crossing boundaries. And it still matters to hold the belief, I believe in some way this behavior makes perfect sense. Now, from a psychobabbly place, when we decide something makes sense, we're like, oh, I don't really understand it, but I believe it makes sense. We're bringing the energy of coherence to it. And coherence is an energetic place of the nervous system that helps us stay regulated. So when we believe something makes sense, we have a few extra moments of regulation. It keeps us curious, right? It keeps us out of character assassination.
Yeah.
And all of those things contribute to us being more likely to respond to this behavior in a way that's actually helpful in the long run instead of causing more dysregulation.
So you're basically highlighting, Robyn, that the place to start, Dad, is grounding yourself, talking to yourself. So you're mindful, you're aware, because we know that feelings follow thoughts. So when there's feelings bonking into feelings in the room, right? Energy bouncing everywhere, is if your mindset is focused on a truth. I love that you said you don't have to even believe it. This behavior doesn't make sense, but you're coaching yourself to say, I want to discover, I'm curious. I wonder where that's coming from. I think the mindset shift that I'm hearing you highlight, Robyn, is that instead of the dad saying, I can't stand my daughter right now. I hate this behavior. I don't hate her, but I hate this behavior. And you have a narrative running, whether you know it or not, Dad. It's running fast and furious, and you're trying to find your land legs. But if you can maybe even have a 4-word sentence, all behavior makes sense. All behavior makes sense. You can repeat that to yourself in the moment to be curious to say, I don't know the answer. I don't know how it makes sense, but I want to find out. I want to get under it before there's consequences. Like you said, some of this behavior, it's hurting your child, your daughter, and does need to be addressed. But are you 100%. Saying if you can first go slower, slow down, calm your nervous system, regulate yourself, the outcome will be much better in the long run when the consequences really do happen and need to happen.
Well, and both can coexist. So like if the parents that I work with have very out of control kids. So it wouldn't be reasonable for me to tell them that they shouldn't have reactions that are like, I hate this. I'm so sick of this, right? That's very normal and human, but you can do both. You can have an authentic, like, I really hate this. I am so sick of this. This is really hard. And somehow, somewhere, this behavior does make sense. And I really like to emphasize that we can't expect that we're going to respond like this to our kids' behaviors all the time. That's totally unreasonable. Sometimes we're just going to like lose it because we're human too. And our behavior makes sense too. Right. Yeah. But if we can practice, then we'll increase that capacity slowly over time of exactly what you said, kind of holding on to that curiosity, which doesn't mean excusing the behavior. I have to talk with parents about that a lot. Understanding behavior is not excusing it. But when we understand behavior, we come up with way better ideas about what we can do that will actually achieve our goal of changing that behavior.
Right. Being more proactive
Yes.
than reactive. But I love that you're just coming along as a parenting coach saying, okay, we're all human. You're going to blow it too. Give yourself compassion, but model to your daughter, Dad, the way you want her to respond, which is understanding herself and where that's coming from. And oftentimes the way I say it to my clients is the thing you think is the thing isn't the thing.
Yeah.
So especially for us as women, as daughters, there's some whole other portal into her emotional system, her nervous system that has nothing to do with the present moment. And maybe you just have to bump into her or flip the switch on. And so when you slow down and take the time to be curious, that's also going to help your own owl brain be more aware and more mindful. So what about the dad? I think sometimes I hear from dads, even from moms, that say, we play good cop, bad cop. It's like maybe dad's the passive one and mom's the angry one, or vice versa. How can a dad and mom work together when they're coming from two different vantage points with a daughter who has big baffling behaviors?
Well, this has to happen outside, of course, the moments of confronting behavior. And it's very common for two people in relationship with one another to have different ways that they respond to stress. Being, angry and aggressive or having a lot of energy versus kind of being more passive and kind of collapsing. These are just about the energetic ways that we're responding to stress. It is all a stress response. All of us have different stress responses. They're not good or bad. Sometimes they're more helpful than others. And so developing a game plan, right, outside the moment that addresses each other with the same amount of compassion you're working to address your kid with, right? Like if we're working really hard to understand and make sense of our kids' behaviors, let's do that for one another as well. And let's, collaborate and cooperate. Like, well, what do you need? Like when, me and my husband have different triggers. There's things that like put me through the roof and there's things that put him through the roof, and they're not the same. Thank goodness. So like we kind of can tag team, when we're doing our best, I can be like, hey, why don't you let me get this one, or opposite. Right. And we work really hard to agree that we're not perfect. We're going to mess up, but we are, generally speaking, coming from the same place and trying to help our kid and one another. So we need to see each other's behaviors through the same lens.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It starts with us, doesn't it? More is caught than taught. Okay. A couple more questions for you. So one of my favorite things you talk about is repair. So kind of what we're talking about here is you're humanizing responses. You're normalizing them and saying, who of us doesn't get triggered and have the moments that we're like, I'm glad that wasn't recorded and put out there. So this idea of repair, tell us more about that, because this ties to attachment theory, secure attachment. And we know we're going to blow it. I always say we hurt within the context of relationship, and we heal within the context of relationship. We can't do it any other way. And so when relationships are more challenging and seasons are really hard with parents, with dads and daughters and kids and parents, this idea of repair has everything to do with everything.
Yeah.
So can you share with some dads ways that they can work on repairing, building bridges with their daughters after hurt has happened?
Repair in the attachment literature is really like the magic ingredient of secure attachment. Secure attachment is not about perfect parenting or always getting it right with our kids or being a really great parent. Secure attachment is about when something happens in my relationship with this other person that kind of takes us off track, right? That I do something to get us back on track, right? And it could be an apology, but repair and apology aren't necessarily synonymous. Repair is about, I see that we have gotten disconnected. I see that there's been a hurt in our relationship. So number one, I see it. So that's huge, because being seen and knowing that somebody else sees things that you don't necessarily tell them is a very important ingredient in secure attachment. So repairs mean I see you. Repairs mean I'm willing to do something hard. I'm willing to be vulnerable. And I'm willing to do the hard thing by coming back and reconnecting our relationship. Our relationship is that important to me. And that is also just attachment gold. I see you. I'm willing to be vulnerable because our relationship matters that much to me. And then a repair can actually look like a trillion different things. But ultimately, repairs are about, can we get our relationship like back on track, reconnected, reattuned to one another? And yeah, it might look like an apology. I apologize to my kid, right? Sometimes I have to go to him and say, whoa, I totally lost it.
Yeah.
I should never talk to you like that. Nobody should ever talk to you like that. Mm-hmm. I am doing my work so that I can be more regulated and stay more in control of my watchdog brain.
Yeah.
So that when I get upset, because I'm going to get upset again, this is inevitable, I don't say such hurtful things.
That's beautiful, because you're modeling to dads the very thing that we want to encourage them to do, which is own it.
Yeah.
And that when there's, kind of that beauty of being seen, where you're seeing your daughter sees you being human. I find that daughters say, the more real my dad can be with me, even if
100%.
Like, I have a book where it's conversation starters for dads and daughters, where I'm like, Dad, take the book. It's okay to not know what to say and say, I'm getting coached, by Dr. Michelle. She's helping
100%.
me know what to say. Like that vulnerability of I'm still learning. I'm willing to grow and learn.
Yes.
Your daughter will internalize that and say, well, then I'm willing to grow and learn too, because this apple didn't fall far from that tree. And we just want to encourage you as dads to not stop growing and learning. And we're grateful you're listening to us today, because our heart is for you. Our heart is with you. And you also do have a cheat sheet, you call it, to help you repair and reconnect. And so you can go to, again, robyngobbel.com and get that. I got a fun question for you. And then I'll end with my go question. But it's, how can a dad use double bubble gum? You write about this in your book, and I think it's genius, because if a dad is literally at the end of his rope and he's like, I cannot think of anything else to do, this is a train wreck. Wait, double bubble gum. So Robyn told me about this.
Gum?
What does he do with gum to help repair and connect with his daughter?
Oh, there's so much in the example that you just gave. I mean, the most simple explanation is that double bubble is thick. It requires a lot of effort to chomp on, and it is giving our bodies a sensory experience that is almost always regulating. Like getting that pressure is almost always regulating. You also gave an example of a surprise, right? Like things are going off the rails. You're not expecting your parent to be like, hey, you want some gum? Right?
Right.
And so a surprise can be really helpful when things are going off the rails. And there's the chewing, the sugar even, actually. There's no way to deny that an immediate burst of sugar helps the brain a little tiny bit. This is not a great long-term solution, but it is really true in the moment. But it's really about the regulation that gum, and there is actually scientific studies, like peer-reviewed journal articles about gum and regulation that's kind of helped us push. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Like when my kid was a middle schooler, his school allowed for gum on test taking days. And when I'm advocating for kids who are really stressed out at school, gum is one of the things I'll try, because it's actually very simple.
It is.
Right? We get a lot of feelings about kids and gum, but I'm like, we got a super dysregulated kid, and gum might help. Like, this is
Yeah.
kind of a no-brainer, people. Like, let's
So
just
how
try.
fun,
Yeah.
how fun would that be for a dad right now today, action step, to go buy a big bag of double bubble gum, put it in a bowl at your house, because how much would it lighten the mood? Because when laughter comes in, that helps to regulate. So both of you, your daughter may hand you an unwrapped piece of double bubble gum
for sure.
She doesn't have to say anything, but she's like, Dad, you need to get a grip.
Exactly.
But you know what I thought of when you were just talking that I hadn't thought of earlier is once he's chewing on that gum, he won't say things he regrets.
Talk anymore. Yes.
Exactly. It stops up, the flow of things he may regret. Okay, well, I could talk to you all day, Robyn, but I love ending with a go step, and you've given lots of practical action steps. But if you were to just here at the end say, Dad, if I could tell you one thing from my heart to yours about how you can take one step in being more proactive to raise a daughter with big baffling behaviors, here's what I would say to you.
The thing I think parents lose sight of is how crucially important they are for their kids. And when we forget how important we are, we tend to back off a little. And so that's the big thing is like, remember, like, you're the most important thing to your kid. Like, keep pursuing relationship, keep going towards, like, keep trying new things, keep listening to this podcast, keep trying the double bubble. Like, you are that important to your kid. And so to use that belief to just energize, because this is hard work. This is slogging, hard work with very little reward at times.
Yes.
And so if we can just keep our sights on, like, no, you really are that important. You matter that much to your kid.
I love it. Well, before I let you go, where can dads connect with you? I told them about your website, but also tell them about the club.
I have a virtual community that is specifically for parents of kids with these big baffling behaviors. And it happens in an app. It happens online. It's a virtual community that's, a forum and education and, classes and live events and all that kind of good stuff. So it's very designed to be helping parents grow their owl brain.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Robyn, thank you so much for being here. I truly believe our conversation today will help dads pivot, course correct, grow. And I'm so thrilled that you've shared so much of your heart and your wisdom with all of us today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this wraps up another week's program. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and encouraging you as dads to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's hearts. Go Dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. If you're looking for more resources to support the father-daughter relationship, or if you want to connect personally with Dr. Michelle, you can find all the information you need at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. And remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.